Hey everybody, we're back to go ahead and do a screen replacement on this HTC M8. We have a few tools here. We're going to be using a Phillips screwdriver as well as a Torx screwdriver as well. We have a small metal pry tool so we can gain access to the top covers and bottom covers. A couple nylon spudgers here to help us remove any cables on the inside, and a couple of these guitar picks will help us go ahead and loosen up the screen a little bit. The first thing we're also going to use is a heat gun. You can use a hairdryer or a different heat gun. This is a hot air soldering iron. But we're just going to really use this to loosen up the adhesive on the top portion and the bottom portion of the phone, which is hiding the screws that we need to get under. The top portion of the phone is going to use a Phillips screw. I think it's a 00. And then the bottom is a small Torx screwdriver. I think it's like a 3. I'll try to put that in the description for sure. So just using our pry tool, getting underneath it and pulling it back. You can go ahead and just set that aside. It's just a little flexible plastic, so don't worry about bending metal. It won't. It's got a little bit of extra pry to it. We're gonna go ahead and heat up the other side of the device and get ready to pull this off as well. The one thing you want to do be careful of is that in between the battery cover and this little housing here, there's a piece of plastic that runs in between. You can see that it's a little white edge on this phone. Just be careful not to damage that a lot as you're trying to pry this up. You warm it up with your heat gun. It's pretty easy to kind of waver a little bit. So this one's a little bit tougher than the top one. I'm just going to go ahead and stick it all with her. You don't want to push too far in. There's a speaker under here that has a mesh cover. So you want to try to keep your pry tool as flat as possible when you're removing this. We don't want to hit the glass or the screen. We just want to pry this out. Just working it back and forth. Get it to loosen up. There we go. You can see that we have our Torx screws down here, all of the black spots. So we have 2 Phillips head screwdrivers at the top, and then 4 Torx at the bottom. You can take this opportunity to clean off your speakers as well. I'm going to go ahead and use our Phillips to go ahead and remove the top 2 screws, both of which are silver, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. And they are the same length. So both of those are removed. Next step is to use our Torx wrench and remove the ones down here at the bottom. You can take all 4 out. Last one. Now you will see the video skip. I actually forgot to remove the SIM card slot and the SD card slot before trying to pry the back off. Don't do that. It makes it really hard to remove the back of the device. So we're going to pop those out here just real fast. So if you're trying to remove the back right now and you're determining that it just won't come off, make sure you pop these 2 things out. It definitely will not pop off with that happening. I would suggest using a plastic opening tool. I prefer the iSesmo tool on a silver device like this. It's easier just to get in there. Once you get started, you can use a plastic pry tool to finish it off. But if you don't have one, you can start off with a safe opening tool or something of that nature as well. This has clips that run down the sides of the device, and you can just run your pry tool just behind the screen a little bit or down the side, and you'll hear them unclick off. So we're going to go ahead and just separate from the top to the bottom. And our power button popped out, so make sure you keep an eye on that. It will want to be removed or pop out. Sometimes, right when I flip this over, you'll see that there's a camera and little black connector. Sometimes it stays connected to the back, sometimes it doesn't. Not a big deal either way. You can see that there's lots of HTC tape, which is what they love so much. So we're just going to use our nylon spudger and start to pry this tape back to reveal the connectors. Go nice and slow as you're removing this. You don't want to rip a ribbon cable. So just using your tool or the pry tool, hold down on part of the cable as you move the tape down. Try not to pull extremely hard. Just be firm. And right now what we're revealing is part of the LCD digitizer portion, this gold cable that runs the length of the bottom half of the phone is what we want to gain access to. Go ahead and set that tape aside. We'll go ahead and do the same thing to the opposite side. There's actually a couple layers of tape on this side. We'll basically start just right in the middle. And then work our way down, then work our way back up. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to get started if you use your fingernail, a pry tool, or tweezers. You don't want to rip the fabric tape. It does rip fairly easy, kind of like a shirt or fabric would. So try to get a big chunk of it started before you start pulling on it. Let's go ahead and pull this down. Just take our time and make sure we don't rip the tape. We're undoing, and you can see a couple of connectors showing here now. We're going to remove the fabric tape from the opposite side. We basically need to remove all of these connectors to take the logic board out, then to take the battery out to gain access to the cable entry for the digitizer and the LCD, which is why we're removing all of this tape for all these connectors. Alright. Starting to show all of the connectors. So we have a couple of connectors here that we're going to remove. The first one being the battery right here. There was a little bit of place of tape that I just removed off of the bottom connector. We want to disconnect the battery first, that way we don't short anything out or do anything crazy. It's held down by 2 Phillips screws. We'll go ahead and remove both of these 2 screws. Then we can use our nylon spudger and just go ahead and pry up the power connector. I find it easiest to start with the flat inside of the spudger, and then right next to the little metal housing there, just pop forward. That way we don't damage it at all. We're going to go ahead and pull up on the back of this flip-up connector here for the bottom speaker. Just going to go ahead and pull that out. Just going to go ahead and move it to the side so it's not in the way. We have a couple of wire antenna connectors here we're going to go ahead and undo. There are 2 of them, so let's go ahead and pull them and set them back aside as well. Now all of these have that same flip-up ribbon cable connector, so we're just going to go ahead and pry up on the back side of these and flip up the connection point so we can remove the cables from the logic board. Make sure the tape's not in the way. You can go ahead and pull them and go ahead and pull them out of their sockets. Just going up the side of the board and pulling each of them out. Just make sure the tape's pulled back far enough so it's not adhered to the logic board or to the connection point as well. We do need to kind of pull back on the volume up and volume down buttons here that's adhered to the side of the device. We'll free up this little tape connection. I don't want to pull the tape too far back. I want to keep it in one piece as much as possible. Just making sure to separate the tape so I can get the connector port out. The cable, the top cable actually runs underneath the logic board, so it won't pull straight back. You'll just need to kind of pry it out. We'll go ahead and do the opposite side of the phone and flip up both connection cables here as well. Go ahead and pull them out of the logic board. The bottom cable here is actually adhered a little bit down to the battery. You can just use your pry tool and go ahead and pull it out. This cable, if your screen is messed up, it's not extremely important as it's a portion of the LCD digitizer that we'll be replacing. There's a black wire cable connector that runs down the inside portion of the logic board. Just go ahead and unclip it from the bottom and pull it back towards the top. That's almost all the cables that we need to get removed off of the logic board. I'm going to go ahead and take out the 3 Torx screws that hold the logic board down. There's 2 on the logic board, one at the top left and top right, and then one down at the bottom towards the speaker. My screwdriver is just not spinning correctly. Let me see if I can't get it to work here properly for us. Go ahead and take out the second one on the left-hand side. We do have 2 wire connectors right here at the top that are connected by a little piece of foam. I leave the foam on. It's easier to determine how the wires go back in. Go ahead and pull those back. Now, if this does seem daunting, all these cables and tapes, I do have a reassembly video. I'll put it in the description as well. That way, if you're a little concerned about being able to reassemble your device, that'll definitely help you out. Taking out the last Torx screw at the bottom of the phone. That should go ahead and free up our logic board a little bit for us to go ahead and try to remove it. Just going to double check and look around. So it looks like there's a little bit of adhesive on the back of the logic board. It's holding it in place. It's going to be kind of like the M7. It's got a little piece of adhesive down at the bottom by the speaker, the bottom speaker port. That fabric tape, it looks like it's a double-sided tape on this one as well. Just try to get my pry tool underneath the board to find a spot to kind of pry underneath. I want to start at the bottom because the top, the camera lens, little cover actually is covering up the little bit at the top of the board. I'm just going to pry up this cable here for the LCD. Let's put my plastic spudger behind it and see if we can't gain traction to get this loose. Right here at the bottom where I'm currently prying is where the double-sided adhesive is at. You want to be careful. You don't want to bend the board, but you do want to loosen the adhesive right here. So we're just going to wiggle our pry tool in, and we're going to kind of wiggle it back and forth to get it started. Just going to remove a little piece up here at the top that's kind of holding it down. I'm going to try to pop off the lens cover for the camera, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want any dust getting in there. I'm pretty sure I can remove it without taking that off. I know there's a little bit more adhesive down here. Just going to try to pry that up a little bit more as we go. Perfect. Now that we have the bottom frame, I'm going to wiggle the top back and forth a little bit. And you can see that we're definitely making some movement. There's a little plastic piece here that covers up, it looks like a little sensor area here. We're going to go ahead and pull that. It looks like the water sensor is over this corner of the device as well. So we're just going to wiggle back all the cables a little bit and try to wiggle this free a little bit more. Perfect. Now that we have it free, we just have this tape here covering it up. So we're just going to fold this back over and try to pull it. We'll go ahead and set the logic board aside. Now we're making really good progress. You can see that to get to the cables to do the screen swap, we're going to have to remove the battery out of the device. I'm trying to pry it up without removing too much stuff out of it, but we'll probably have to take out the bottom speaker assembly. That adhesive that holds the battery down is in a square, just like in the M7 as well. You could use a little bit of heat to make the prying a little bit easier if you would like. I'm just going to use a different pry tool here. It's a little bit longer so I can get further into the battery. Just working our way around. Now I'm not being extremely forceful, I'm just giving it a nice firm pressure, letting the adhesive pull itself off rather than pushing to cut it. Or basically just kind of levering it off of the back here. Some fabric tape down at the bottom you can see that I was just playing with. Make sure that's not adhered to the underside of the battery. Now we're making some good progress. Just going to move these cables out from the front of the battery to make sure we don't tangle them. Now we got good leverage. I can see underneath exactly where the adhesive is still sticking, so I'm just going to pry the adhesive off the back of the phone. Perfect. Got our fabric tape here on the bottom of the battery. Let's go ahead and pull it and kind of get it to stick back in its original spot. Alright, we definitely have access to the right side cable. It looks like the left side cable still being covered up by the little board and the bottom speaker down here. So we're going to take this piece off, and then we're going to take the charge ports cable out as well. It's got a little bit of adhesive behind it that kind of holds it around the speaker grill area. Just going to use a thin pry tool to get underneath this charge port area. Sorry, just trying to get a closer look at it. Once you get it started to get wiggled free, I'm going to try the other side of the device here real fast, see if I can't get it to pry up from here as well. Perfect. Now we've got a good wiggle off of it. We're going to go ahead and just remove it from the interior portion of the phone. Next thing is going to take out the little foam padding here on this cable as well as the other cable. My phone's going to lose battery here, or my camera that I'm recording is going to lose battery here in just a few seconds, so you'll see the screen chop. I'm just going to remove the bottom connector, this little foam insert down here as well that holds the cable in. Alright, I just barely got the cable that I had in removed, or the little film piece around the cable removed. I haven't done anything else yet. This is a little plastic piece that went up next to the camera. The next step is to remove the LCD and glass assembly out of the mid-frame of the phone. What we're going to use to do this is, we're going to try to use this suction cup. If your screen's not extremely shattered, you can use this to help out and help pry away from the mid-frame without damaging the bezel around the device. We'll definitely have to use a heat gun to heat up the glue around the edges of the device. So just the edges where you can see where it'll be taped down at is where we're going to get it nice and warm. We're going to use our guitar picks here to see if we can't get this started. And having this open end down here at the bottom definitely makes it a little bit easier. So just moving our pick back and forth, trying to separate the double-sided adhesive that holds the LCD down. I don't want to damage the actual LCD. I want to keep it. I'm going to use my suction cup here to help pry around the edge here. Like I was saying, I don't want to damage the LCD. I'd like to try to do a glass-only replacement on this. So the suction cup can damage sometimes if it does have a crack in the middle like this one does. And it was flexing a little bit, so I'm going to stop using it. Just going to use a guitar pick to go down the sides of the phone. Getting some good separation here now. See how much we've gained down the side of the device. Not as much as I thought we would. We're going to go ahead and just try again. Move around the corner across the top. Try to stick a guitar pick in the upper corner here. Put one in the other corner so we can't move it around. Go ahead and slide it down this side as well. It's getting a little bit hard to move the pick around, so I'm going to go ahead and just heat the display back up again. Just focusing on the area that I haven't lifted up yet. It warms up a little bit faster than the first time, so you don't want to overheat it. Start here in the corner and move our guitar pick down the side. Perfect. We got some separation. You can go ahead and pull the LCD away from the back plate here. This one cable here is a little bit tricky, so we're going to go ahead and open it like a book and pull out the right side cable. And then we will kind of pull the top here. We can slide it down and then pull out the bottom cable. Perfect. Went ahead and got the LCD assembly out. Fantastic. There is some of this metal fabric tape that doesn't come on my new display. I'm debating whether or not it's something that's necessary to have. My thought is that they probably put it there for a reason, whether it's to not short something out. But in the end, it's a really hard transfer, and I don't believe you have to have it. I ended up not using it just because it was losing its adhesiveness. So we'll see what happens when we boot our phone up. I don't believe it's something that's going to be extremely necessary. Looks like it might be covering up contact to this little sensor here. Definitely not the easiest tape to remove. So go ahead and leave it on there, and there's no need to actually remove it. We're going to go ahead and just clean up all of the 3M double-sided tape off of the bezel here. I'm not going to bore you with cleaning it all off. Just make sure you get all of the black 3M tape, any shards of glass that may be on there. You want to clean it up pretty good so there's no ridges or high points when you try to lay the LCD back on. You don't want it to kind of pry off. If you want to see the reassembly, go ahead and hit the video, the link in the description. And always, thanks for watching. If you found it helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments. I'll do my best to go ahead and keep them up to date and keep them answered for you.